Betrayal in Paradise. Chapter 1, The Escape. The sun blazed high over the Miami International Airport as Alex Turner leaned back in a leather lounge chair, swirling a glass of whiskey he didn't really need. His flight to St. Lucia was boarding in 45 minutes, but he wasn't in a rush. He had time. For once. Everything about the terminal, the endless chatter, the glint of sunlight off airplane windows, the scent of overbrewed coffee, made him feel distant, almost invisible. And that was exactly what he wanted. At 42, Alex had everything a man was supposed to want. A successful tech business. A luxurious house in the suburbs of New Jersey. A beautiful wife named Rachel who had been with him since college. 2 kids at prestigious schools. A German Shepherd. A Tesla. The perfect American dream, at least on paper. But dreams are strange things. They change. They lose color. He had begun to feel like a character in someone else's life, rehearsing the same lines, smiling the same smile, following a script written long ago. That's why, when his friend Lucas invited him to join a week-long business retreat turned luxury getaway, in the Caribbean, he didn't hesitate. Rachel was busy planning their daughter's birthday. The kids were at summer camp. And Alex. Alex needed air. Space. Freedom. He stood up, grabbing his carry-on. A new duffel bag, dark leather, sleek. Inside, linen shirts, swim trunks, expensive cologne, and a wedding ring he wouldn't be wearing for the next 7 days. On the plane, he sat in first class next to a woman with striking green eyes and an island accent. Her name was Camille, and she was reading a book of poetry, her fingers dancing softly over the pages. They exchanged smiles. "I haven't seen someone read poetry in years," Alex said, breaking the silence. She looked at him. "Then you've been spending your time with the wrong people." He chuckled. "Maybe I have." That was all. Just a moment. But it lingered in his mind long after the plane touched down. The island of St. Lucia was a living postcard. Lush green mountains met sapphire seas, and the breeze smelled of mango and salt. The resort, the Soleil Retreat, was nothing short of paradise. Private villas, infinity pools, waiters who remembered your name, and a strict no-questions-asked policy. Lucas arrived a day later, with his usual bravado and a girl half his age. Alex barely paid attention. His thoughts were elsewhere, or, rather, on someone else. He saw her again on the second day. Camille. She was walking barefoot along the beach, a sun hat tilted on her head, the book of poetry tucked under her arm. She stopped near a rocky outcrop, her feet in the surf, and began to read. Alex watched her from his balcony, something dangerous blooming in his chest. A question. A temptation. Later that evening, they bumped into each other at the hotel bar. "No poetry tonight?" he asked. She smiled. "Only if someone's listening." "I'm listening," he said. And that was how it began. Chapter 2, The Spark. The bar was dimly lit, tucked away behind a curtain of cascading bougainvillea. Soft jazz played in the background, the kind of music that wraps around your mind like silk. Alex ordered 2 mojitos without asking her preference. Somehow, he knew she wouldn't mind. Camille sat across from him, elbows resting casually on the wooden table, her green eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight. "You look like a man running from something," she said softly, almost teasing. Alex smirked. "That obvious? I'm good at reading people. So, what do you see when you look at me?" She paused, tilting her head. "A man who has everything and still feels like he's missing something." Her words hit harder than he expected. "And what about you?" he asked, trying to regain balance. "I'm not running," she said. "I'm just drifting." There was silence between them, but it wasn't awkward. It was full, a shared solitude that didn't need explaining. The kind that only strangers in paradise could understand. Later that night, they walked barefoot along the beach. The moon hung heavy above the ocean, its light carving silver lines across the waves. Camille's voice floated on the wind. "Do you believe in fate?" Alex laughed. "I believe in airline tickets and hotel bookings." She rolled her eyes playfully. "I mean, do you believe people meet for a reason? I think sometimes people cross paths at the right time, or maybe the wrong time." They stopped walking. The surf kissed their toes. Camille turned to him. "So is this the right time or the wrong one?" Alex didn't answer. Instead, he reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Her skin was warm. Soft. "Let's not name it," he whispered. And then, he kissed her. It was gentle, at first. Uncertain. But it deepened quickly, all restraint vanishing like mist under the sun. Her hands slid behind his neck. His arms pulled her closer. The waves crashed around them, but they barely noticed. By the time they returned to her room, the line between right and wrong had blurred completely. The next morning, Alex woke up tangled in white sheets, Camille asleep beside him. The guilt hadn't set in yet. Only the calm after a long-held storm. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. He reached for it and saw a message from Rachel. "Hope the retreat is going well. Don't forget Zoe's birthday is next week. Love you." He stared at the screen. The words felt distant. Unrelated to him. Camille stirred and opened her eyes. "You okay?" "Yeah," Alex said, putting the phone face down. "Just the real world knocking." "Let's not open the door," she whispered, pulling him back into bed. That night turned into another. And another. Days slipped by like sand through fingers. They swam under moonlight, drank rum on mountaintops, laughed like teenagers, made love like secrets. Alex told himself it was just a fling. A break from reality. A beautiful lie in a beautiful place. But lies have roots. And they were already growing. Chapter 3, Cracks Beneath the Surface. By the fourth day, Alex was no longer pretending it was just a vacation. Every morning began with Camille beside him. They'd take breakfast on her terrace, tropical fruit, fresh coffee, bare skin under silk robes. The intimacy between them had grown so naturally, so quickly, it scared him. Camille had stopped asking questions. She didn't ask about his past, his work, or whether someone was waiting for him back home. She didn't need to. She knew. Her silence was not ignorance, it was complicity. And Alex, drowning in the illusion, let it happen. But reality has a way of clawing its way back. That afternoon, while Camille was napping, Alex took a walk to clear his head. He stopped by the pool bar, ordered a neat scotch, and sat under a thatched umbrella. The heat clung to him like sweat-soaked guilt. "Fancy seeing you alone," came a voice. It was Lucas, grinning, shirtless, sunglasses pushed up into his sun-bleached hair. Alex offered a half-smile. "Needed some air." Lucas flopped into the seat next to him. "I heard you've been disappearing at night. Some local girl?" Alex didn't answer. Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Man, you didn't." Alex sipped his drink. "It's not serious." Lucas leaned in, voice low. "Your wife still posts couple selfies, you know. You've got a good thing, Alex. I didn't ask for a sermon." "No, but maybe you need one." There was a pause. Just the wind, the waves, and the uncomfortable hum of conscience. Then Lucas shrugged. "Look, I'm not judging. I just hope you know the difference between escape and self-destruction." Alex finished his drink in silence. That night, Camille lit candles in the villa. The soft glow painted her in gold. She wore nothing but a silk kimono, her long legs folded beneath her on the couch. But Alex felt distant. She sensed it. "You're somewhere else tonight," she said. "I just saw someone from back home," he lied. Camille watched him. "Do you miss it? Your other life?" He hesitated. "Sometimes. But not enough." She stood up and walked to him, placing a hand on his chest. "Whatever this is, it's real to me." "I know. And you?" Alex didn't answer. Instead, he kissed her. Not like before, not hungry or wild, but slow. Heavy. Like goodbye, wrapped in silence. Back in his own villa, Alex opened his phone. He scrolled through pictures of his family, Rachel smiling in their kitchen, Zoe with cake icing on her nose, Ethan in his football jersey. It all felt far away. Like watching someone else's life through glass. His phone buzzed. "Rachel, can we video call tomorrow? Zoe really wants to see you." Alex stared at the screen. He typed, "Of course." Then deleted it. Then typed, "Sure. Let's talk around noon." He hit send. For the first time since arriving, he felt a tremor in the illusion. Chapter 4, A Voice from Home. Alex set his phone on the table and paced the room. Noon was approaching. Outside, the ocean danced in the sunlight, as if mocking him, its serenity in sharp contrast to the storm building inside. He hadn't told Camille he'd be calling home. It felt like a betrayal, of the betrayal. At exactly 12 p.m. the screen lit up. Incoming video call, Rachel ring. He hesitated, heart pounding, then answered. Rachel appeared, her face framed by the kitchen window, sunlight streaming in. Her smile was warm, but her eyes carried the tiredness he used to know so well. The kind that comes from balancing too much and getting too little in return. "Hey, stranger," she said with a smile. "Hey." Behind her, Zoe popped into frame. "Daddy." "Hey, Peanut." Alex forced cheer into his voice. "How's your summer?" Zoe launched into a breathless monologue about swimming lessons, a scraped knee, and a new friend named Maya. Alex smiled, nodded, laughed in all the right places, but part of him was floating above it all, detached. Rachel finally reclaimed the screen. "You look tanned. It's hot down here. How's the retreat? Productive?" Alex blinked. "Yeah. You know. Mostly workshops and meetings." She looked at him for a long beat. "I miss you." His throat tightened. "I miss you too." She paused. "Do you?" Silence. "Of course I do," he said, too quickly. Rachel nodded, her smile faltering just slightly. "Okay. Well, don't forget about Saturday. Zoe's party. She wants you to send a video if you can't call." "I'll be there," Alex said. And in that moment, he believed it. At least, he wanted to believe it. After the call, he sat alone for almost an hour. The silence in the villa pressed against him like a wall. Camille arrived just after 2, wearing a light cotton dress and a flower in her hair. "Hey, stranger," she said, echoing Rachel's words from earlier. Alex looked up. "Hey." She walked to him, kissed his cheek. "Want to go for a sail today? One of the staff offered to take us out to Marigot Bay." Alex hesitated. "I don't know." Camille tilted her head. "You okay?" "Yeah. Just tired." She stared at him, her voice gentle. "You called her, didn't you?" Alex said nothing. Camille sat beside him, folding her legs underneath. "Did it make you feel better?" "No." "Worse?" He nodded slowly. Camille didn't push. She just placed her hand on his, fingers brushing gently across his skin. "Then maybe that tells you something." Alex looked at her, this woman who had slipped into his life like warm tidewater, and he wondered how something that felt so beautiful could come from something so wrong. That evening, they sailed out into the bay anyway. The sky turned lavender as the sun dipped low, and Camille stood at the bow of the small catamaran, her arms stretched out, hair whipping in the wind. Alex watched her and thought, what happens when this ends? Because it would. It had to. He wasn't the kind of man who left his family. Was he? Chapter 5, Ghosts in the Water. The ocean beneath the catamaran shimmered like liquid glass. The boat cut through the waves in silence, save for the creaking of the mast and the occasional splash of salt water. Alex stood at the edge, hands gripping the railing, watching Camille as she leaned against the opposite side, her silhouette framed by the bleeding hues of sunset. He couldn't escape the weight in his chest. That call with Rachel had opened a door he'd been trying to keep closed. Beautiful, isn't it? Camille said, coming to stand beside him. He nodded. You look like you're somewhere else again. Maybe I am. She waited. Let the silence stretch. Finally, he spoke. I keep thinking about what happens when this is over. Camille turned her face to him. It doesn't have to be over. He looked at her, brows tightening. You mean, what, continue this back home? I don't know, she said softly. But why does it have to be pretend? Why does it have to disappear the moment you step on a plane? Because it was never supposed to be real, Alex said. This was an escape. A fantasy. We weren't supposed to feel things. Camille's voice dropped. But we did. He closed his eyes. A gust of wind hit the sails. The boat swayed slightly. I have a family, he said. A wife. Kids. I never asked you to leave them, she replied. I only asked you to be honest, with yourself. Her words were calm, but they cut deep. I'm not the man you think I am, he said, his voice quiet. Camille looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, he saw hurt in her eyes. No. You're not. But I'm not the woman you think I am, either. What does that mean? She shook her head. It means we both came here wearing masks. The difference is, I was willing to take mine off. They returned to the shore in silence. That night, Alex didn't go to Camille's villa. He stayed in his own room, pacing like a caged animal. The luxury around him, marble floors, four-poster bed, ocean view balcony, felt hollow. Like a stage set. He opened his suitcase and saw the wedding ring tucked into the side pocket. He stared at it. He didn't put it on. The next morning, he didn't message Camille. She didn't message him either. At breakfast, he sat alone, sipping bitter coffee and watching the other guests, couples laughing, children chasing birds near the sand, locals setting up for the resort's Friday night festival. Lucas showed up, uninvited, flopping into the chair across from him. You look like a man who just got hit by a truck. Something like that. Lucas sipped his mimosa. You ended it? Alex nodded. Well, Lucas said, setting his glass down, good for you. Or, I'm sorry. Not sure which fits. Alex half smiled. Maybe both. Lucas leaned in. You want advice? Not really. I'll give it anyway, Lucas grinned. Don't wait too long to go back home. There's a difference between running away and just being lost. Alex didn't respond. But the words stayed with him. Chapter 6, Fire and Salt. The Friday night festival lit up the shoreline with paper lanterns, steel drums, and bonfires that crackled against the rhythm of the sea. Locals danced barefoot in the sand, their laughter rising like wind. Tourists tried to blend in, swaying clumsily to the music, drinks in hand. Alex stood near the edge of the crowd, a plastic cup of rum in one hand, the weight of everything else in the other. He hadn't seen Camille all day. Not by the pool. Not at breakfast. Not even passing by on the beach. She had vanished as quickly as she'd arrived in his life. Like a dream evaporating with the sunrise. He turned to leave the party when he spotted her, standing alone by a bonfire, a dark red dress hugging her curves, a gold chain glittering at her neck. She looked like a flame herself, silent but burning. Their eyes met across the distance. Camille didn't smile. She didn't look away. Alex approached slowly, each step a fight between regret and desire. "You're here," he said. "I live here," she replied, her voice calm, distant. He hesitated. "Can we talk?" She nodded and began walking down the beach, away from the music, the lights, the noise. They walked in silence until they reached a quiet stretch where the only sound was the sea. "I never meant to hurt you," Alex said. "I know," Camille said. "But I did." "Yes." She turned to face him. Her green eyes held something unreadable, not anger, not pain, but something deeper. Acceptance. Maybe even sadness. "I thought I could keep it separate," he said. "This life. That life. But the truth is, I've been lying to everyone. Including myself." Camille looked out at the water. "You weren't just escaping your wife, Alex. You were escaping yourself." He felt the truth in that. "You deserve someone who can give you more than half a heart," he said. "I never asked for forever," she replied. "I only asked for honesty." Alex stepped closer. "I was honest with you, in pieces. But never whole." Camille reached up, gently placed her palm on his cheek. "Then go be whole again. Or at least try." He leaned into her touch, eyes closing. For a moment, they stood like that, suspended in something that felt like closure. Then she stepped back. And that was the last time he touched her. Alex returned to his villa, packed his things, and booked an early flight out. He didn't tell Lucas. He didn't say goodbye to the staff. He just left. On the plane, he wore his wedding ring again. It felt heavier now. Not like a symbol. But like a reminder. Back home, the air felt colder. The house, bigger. Quieter. Rachel greeted him with a cautious smile and open arms. Zoe ran to him, nearly knocking him down. Ethan gave a half hug and muttered, "Welcome back," before going back to his video game. Alex stood in the entryway, surrounded by his life. His real life. "Long trip?" Rachel asked as she helped him with his coat. Alex looked at her, her tired eyes, the lines beside her mouth, the familiar scent of home. "Yeah," he said. "Longer than it should have been." Chapter 7, Crashing Tides. The first night back, Alex couldn't sleep. The bed was too still. The sheets too crisp. The quiet too loud. Rachel slept beside him, her breathing soft, slow, peaceful on the surface. But Alex could feel the distance. Even in the dark, it stretched between them like a frozen river. A silence that hadn't formed overnight but had widened during his absence. In St. Lucia, Camille had filled the silence. Here, it swallowed him whole. The next morning, Rachel made coffee and set it in front of him without a word. She sat across the table, thumbing through her phone, pausing only to glance at him. "You look thinner," she said. "Island food," he replied. She didn't smile. Or guilt. Alex's hand froze mid-reach for the cup. Rachel looked up. Her eyes were no longer tired. They were sharp. Clear. "You thought I didn't know?" He swallowed. "Know what?" She tilted her head. "Don't insult me." He looked away. "It wasn't supposed to happen. That makes it better?" Her voice was quiet, restrained, and somehow more dangerous than yelling. It wasn't planned, he said. It wasn't love. It was confusion. Rachel laughed under her breath. Is that what they're calling it now? Alex leaned forward. It was one mistake. Rachel's voice hardened. No, Alex. It was a series of choices. Not one. Every kiss. Every lie. Every time you answered my calls and said you missed me while sleeping in someone else's bed, that wasn't one mistake. That was a slow betrayal. He wanted to argue. To explain. But there was nothing left to say. She stood up, walked to the window, arms folded tightly. You know what hurts most? It's not that you slept with her. It's that you stopped choosing us. Somewhere along the way, you stopped trying. The silence that followed was suffocating. Finally, she said, I need space. Alex looked up. What does that mean? It means I need time to decide if I can forgive you. If I want to. He stood, guilt tightening around his throat. Rachel, I came back. I'm here. Her eyes met his. Physically, maybe. But you're still standing on that beach, aren't you? He had no answer. Days passed like ghosts. Alex moved through them mechanically, taking the kids to school, answering work emails, pretending everything was fine. But inside, everything was cracking. Rachel barely spoke to him. They shared a house but not a home. Zoe seemed to notice. She clung to him more, asked when he was leaving again. Ethan just retreated further into his phone. One night, Alex sat on the patio alone, nursing a drink. He pulled out his phone and opened his gallery. A picture of Camille on the boat, wind in her hair, laughing, alive. He stared at it for a long time. Then he deleted it. Not in a dramatic, final way. Just, as a start. He wasn't sure if he missed her or just the version of himself he had been with her, lighter, freer, wanted. But he knew he had to let it go. Chapter 8, Storm Weathering. 3 weeks had passed since the confession. Rachel still hadn't said whether she was staying or leaving. They lived like polite strangers. Sharing space. Sharing chores. Sharing children. But nothing more. And Alex, he felt like he was waiting for a sentence to be read out. Every word he spoke, every look he gave her was measured. Heavy. Like he was begging for a chance without saying the words. But Rachel wasn't interested in words. She was watching his actions. One Sunday morning, they took Zoe to her soccer game. Alex offered to drive, and to his surprise, Rachel agreed. The car ride was silent at first. Zoe chatted away in the back seat, unaware of the glances exchanged up front, the stiffness in her mother's posture, the tension in her father's jaw. When they reached the field, Rachel said she'd meet them after grabbing coffee. Alex and Zoe watched from the sidelines. He cheered. Encouraged. Clapped even when Zoe missed a goal. She beamed every time she looked toward him. He could feel Rachel's eyes on him when she returned. After the game, Zoe hugged him and said, "I'm glad you're home." That night, Rachel spoke the first full sentence to him in days. "She missed you," she said. Alex nodded. "I missed her too." Rachel stared at him across the kitchen. "And what about me?" He hesitated. "I missed you in ways I didn't understand, until I almost lost you." She said nothing for a long time. "Then, you broke something, Alex. Something I thought was unbreakable." "I know. I don't trust you," she said plainly. "I don't expect you to," he replied. "Not yet." She studied him. "So what do you want?" He met her eyes. "I want to be the man I promised to be. Even if you never forgive me. Even if it takes a year. Or longer." Rachel took a slow breath, her eyes glistening. "Then prove it," she said. The next day, Alex called a therapist. Not for couples counseling, not yet, but for himself. He began keeping a journal. He showed up at every school event, even the boring ones. He started coming home from work early instead of staying late to escape. He deleted old messages, photos, apps. The ghost of Camille, though still lingering in memories, began to fade from his daily life. And slowly, so very slowly, Rachel began to thaw. One night, she found his journal. He had left it open by mistake on the nightstand. He'd written, "I kissed Camille to feel alive. But I realized I had everything I needed to live right here at home. I was just too blind to see it. Too selfish to protect it." Rachel didn't say a word. She just closed the journal and left it there. But that night, she didn't sleep on the far edge of the bed. She inched closer. Chapter 9, The Rebuilding. The shift was small, but it was there. Rachel began to talk again, not about the betrayal, not yet, but about normal things. The grocery list. Zoe's birthday plans. The sink leaking again. The small talk felt like scaffolding. Fragile, but hopeful. And Alex leaned into it. He didn't push. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He just showed up. Every day. Steady. Present. He even started cooking dinner twice a week, badly, at first. Burnt rice. Overcooked chicken. But Rachel smiled once when she caught him Googling how to make risotto without screwing it up. It was a start. One night, they sat on the back porch in silence. The kids were asleep. Crickets hummed in the dark. The air was still, thick with summer. Rachel sipped her wine. "Did you love her?" Alex didn't answer right away. "No," he finally said. "I loved how she made me forget who I was. But that wasn't love. That was escape." Rachel looked down at her glass. "Did you ever think about not coming back?" He exhaled slowly. "Yes. And that's what scares me most." She nodded. "I hate that you had that version of yourself inside you," she said. "And I didn't even see it." Alex looked at her. "I hated that version of me too. I still do." Rachel turned to face him. "You broke me, Alex." His throat tightened. "But," she added, voice trembling, "you didn't destroy me." They sat in silence again. Then, quietly, she reached across and took his hand. His heart swelled and ached at once. The next few weeks were a cautious dance. Some nights, they shared stories in bed like they used to. Other nights, she cried without explanation. Sometimes, she'd pull away from his touch. Other times, she'd lean into it. And Alex gave her space to feel all of it. The grief. The confusion. The flickers of old love trying to survive under layers of pain. One morning, Rachel suggested something unexpected. "Come to therapy with me." Alex blinked. "You want couples therapy?" "I don't know what I want," she said. "But I know we won't figure it out alone." So they went. Week after week. Talking. Unpacking. Stripping old wounds bare. Facing ugly truths. Accepting shared failures. Alex learned how he'd been emotionally absent for years, even before the affair. How Rachel had been lonely long before he'd physically left. They both realized the betrayal was the climax of something deeper, a slow drift neither had fought hard enough to stop. But now, they were fighting. Together. Chapter 10, The Edge of Forgiveness. Autumn came quietly. Leaves turned to rust and gold, and the air grew cooler, not just outside, but between them. Not cold. Not frozen. Just cautious. Rachel still hadn't said the words Alex most wanted to hear. I forgive you. But she also hadn't said the words he feared. I can't do this. They existed in a space between endings and beginnings, like the brief stillness before a wave breaks. One afternoon, after a long therapy session, Rachel asked him to drive her to the lake where they'd once picnicked years ago, before kids, before mortgages, before all the complications. The lake was quiet. Empty. They sat on a worn bench under a tree that had outlived decades of seasons. Leaves floated on the surface of the water. Rachel spoke first. I used to think love was enough. Alex nodded slowly. Me too. But it's not, she continued. Love needs loyalty. Effort. Truth. You can love someone and still betray them. I know, he said. And I did. She looked at him, eyes soft but heavy. I didn't want to be the woman who stayed. I swore to myself if anything like this ever happened, I'd walk. Alex waited. Breath held. But here I am, she whispered. Why? He asked, voice cracking. She looked away. Because when I picture our kids 10 years from now, I want them to know we fought for each other. Not for the illusion, but for the real version. The messy, painful, flawed version. Tears welled in his eyes. I don't deserve you. She met his gaze. No. You don't. But I still choose you. That night, she returned to his side in bed. Not just physically. Emotionally. Fully. They didn't make love. Not yet. But she rested her head on his chest and let herself fall asleep there. It was the first time since the affair that Alex truly let himself believe forgiveness might be possible. Not easy. Not quick. But possible. Weeks passed. The intimacy between them grew, slow, hesitant, but honest. Rachel began to laugh again. Alex began to trust himself again. There were still triggers. Shadows. Moments when something small, a missed call, a vague text, stirred up ghosts. But now, they faced them together. And together, they began to rebuild something new. Not the marriage they had, but the one they were learning to create, with eyes wide open. Chapter 11, The Unsent Message. Winter crept in. Snow dusted the sidewalks, and holiday lights blinked faintly through fogged windows. Life at home had found its rhythm again, not identical to before, but steady. Alex and Rachel had started going on dates again. Nothing extravagant, dinner at a small Italian place, ice skating with the kids, late-night drives with quiet music. And for the first time in months, Alex didn't feel like a stranger in his own life. But peace, as always, is fragile. It was a Thursday afternoon when it happened. Alex was in the office, sorting through his inbox, when a new email popped up. Subject, just one more thing. From Camille Duval at. He stared at the screen, blood draining from his face. He hadn't heard from her in over 2 months. Not since the night by the bonfire. Not since they said goodbye without saying the words. He opened the message with shaking fingers. Alex. I know I promised I wouldn't reach out. And I'm not asking for anything, I swear. But I needed you to know something, and I didn't want to carry it alone anymore. I'm pregnant. I'm not expecting anything from you. I don't even know if I'll keep it. But you have a right to know. I wish things had been different. Truly. Camille. The room spun. Alex leaned back in his chair, heart thudding so hard it echoed in his ears. He didn't reply. Not right away. He just sat in the quiet of his home office, Camille's message staring back at him like a crack in the foundation he'd just begun to rebuild. The thought hit him like a hammer, one night. One mistake. And now, this. He stood, pacing the room, trying to breathe. He thought of Rachel. Of the look in her eyes when she said, "I choose you." Of his children. Of everything he stood to lose. But he also knew the truth had a clock on it. And it was ticking. That night, Rachel was curled up on the couch reading when he sat down beside her. She looked up immediately. "What's wrong?" He handed her the phone. Let her read it for herself. When she finished, she said nothing. Just stared at him, expression unreadable. He whispered, "It was one time. That week. I haven't spoken to her since." Rachel nodded, slowly. Mechanically. "Do you believe her?" she asked after a long pause. "I don't know. But I think I have to." She stood up, walked across the room, and stared out the window. "So now what?" she whispered. Alex swallowed hard. "Now. I wait to see if she keeps it. I give you space again. And I accept whatever you decide." Rachel turned, eyes shining with a storm of emotion. "Do you want to be part of that child's life?" He hesitated. "I want to do the right thing. But this," he gestured around them, "this is where I want to be." Tears slipped down Rachel's cheek. "Then pray to God it's not yours," she said quietly. "Because I don't know if I can love you through that too." Chapter 12, Waiting for the Wave. The days that followed were brutal. Rachel barely spoke to Alex. She moved around the house with practiced neutrality, not cold, not cruel, just closed. At night, she slept facing away from him. The intimacy they had rebuilt, the fragile bridge of forgiveness, now felt like it had splintered beneath their feet. And Alex, he walked on eggshells, guilt gnawing at his gut, checking his phone obsessively for any update from Camille. None came. Until a week later. The email was brief. "Alex. I went to the doctor. I'm 7 weeks along. There's no one else it could be. I'm keeping it. You don't have to be involved. But if you choose to, I won't stop you. Camille." No drama. No threats. Just cold fact. 7 weeks. He had done the math already, of course. Now it was real. That night, Rachel found him sitting alone in the dark, the glow of the screen reflecting in his eyes. She didn't say anything at first. Then she asked, "Is it yours?" Alex nodded. "Yes." Her lips trembled, but she didn't cry. "And now?" "I don't know." Rachel walked across the room and sat on the edge of the couch, hands in her lap. "What would you do if I told you I couldn't live with this? With her child in the picture?" Alex's throat tightened. "Then I'd let you go. I wouldn't fight. You've already forgiven more than I deserved." Rachel stared at him. "You're the father of our children. And now, maybe someone else's. I didn't ask for this. But you created it." Silence. Then she whispered, "Do you love her?" "No," he said without hesitation. "I love you. Only you." Rachel looked away. "This baby, it's a lifetime sentence. A permanent connection to your mistake." "I know. I don't want to share you," she said, voice shaking. "I don't want to raise our kids next to a reminder of what you did." Alex reached for her hand. "I can't undo it. But I'll do whatever you need me to. If that means walking away from Camille and the child, I will." Rachel pulled her hand back. "But then you'd be the man who ran from responsibility. I'd be the man who chose you." She shook her head. "There's no good answer, Alex. No clean way out." They sat in silence. The weight of too many futures pressing down on them. Outside, snow began to fall, quiet, relentless, covering the street in white. Inside, a different kind of storm brewed. Chapter 13, choosing the path. The next morning was colder than usual. Alex stood at the window, watching his breath fog the glass. He held a cup of coffee, untouched, his reflection faint in the pane, a man unrecognizable from who he was just months ago. Behind him, the house stirred awake, Zoe's footsteps on the stairs, Ethan's bedroom door creaking open, the faint sound of cartoons from the living room. Life moved on, even when hearts didn't. Rachel emerged from the hallway, still in her robe. She looked tired. But different. Resigned, maybe. Or focused. She walked straight to him and spoke without greeting. "I want to meet her." Alex blinked. "Camille?" Rachel nodded. "I need to see the woman who changed my life without ever stepping into it." He shook his head. "Rachel, that's not a good idea." "This isn't about good ideas," she said. "It's about understanding. I need to know what I'm forgiving." Alex hesitated. "She didn't ask for any of this." "And neither did I," Rachel replied. He didn't argue. Because he couldn't. Camille agreed to meet the following Saturday. Neutral ground, a cafe near the city, far from the neighborhood, far from memories. Alex and Rachel arrived first. They sat at a corner table. Rachel wore her wedding ring, but not as a symbol of love, more like a battle medal. Camille arrived 10 minutes later. She wore a long wool coat, scarf around her neck, and no makeup. She looked tired, pale, but composed. Rachel stood. Camille extended her hand. "I'm Camille." "I know," Rachel said softly, shaking it. They sat. Silence hung between the three of them. Finally, Camille broke it. "I didn't come here to defend anything. What happened wasn't fair to you. Or your family. I wish I could take it back." Rachel studied her. "Did you know he was married?" Camille looked at Alex, then back at her. "I suspected. But I didn't ask. And he didn't tell me." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "That's not exactly innocence." "No," Camille admitted. "But I'm not the villain either. We were both selfish." Rachel took a breath. "And the baby?" Camille touched her stomach unconsciously. "I'm keeping it. But I won't demand anything from him. I didn't come to break your family." Rachel leaned forward. "Then why tell him at all?" Camille didn't flinch. "Because he deserved to know. And children deserve to know where they come from." Rachel stared at her. Then, after a long pause, "Do you love him?" Camille smiled, faint and sad. "I think I loved the moment. Not the man." The meeting ended after less than 30 minutes. No shouting. No drama. Just quiet truths spoken across a table. When they got back in the car, Alex asked, "Are you okay?" Rachel stared out the window. "I don't know. But I feel clear." He nodded. "And now?" Rachel turned to him. Her eyes were wet but steady. "Now you need to decide what kind of father you're going to be." Chapter 14, The Man He Must Become. The silence after Rachel's words was unlike any other he'd known. Not angry. Not cold. Just final. Alex sat with it for hours, long after they returned home, long after the kids were tucked into bed. Rachel didn't press him. She'd given him the question, not the answer. What kind of father are you going to be? He already had 2 children who looked up to him, who deserved all the pieces of him. And now, there might be a third, one who didn't ask to be born into this mess. That night, Alex didn't sleep. He paced. He journaled. He stood outside in the winter air until his fingers went numb. In the morning, before the sun rose, he sent Camille a message. "If you'll allow me, I'd like to be part of the child's life. I won't interfere. I'll respect every boundary. But I won't disappear either. I can't. Alex. She replied simply. Okay. When he told Rachel, her expression didn't change. Thank you for telling me, she said. You can walk away, he told her. I won't blame you. Rachel looked him dead in the eyes. You still don't get it, do you? Alex blinked. I'm not here because I'm weak. I'm not staying because I'm afraid. I'm here because I choose to stay, and that choice is mine every single day. But this, she paused, voice trembling slightly. This child will never be my burden. It will be yours. To carry. To explain. To make peace with. He nodded. I understand. No, she whispered. But you will. The weeks that followed were filled with slow, honest rebuilding. Alex didn't hide anything. He updated Rachel when Camille had her first ultrasound. He offered to pay support. He researched parenting classes, not because he didn't know how to raise a child, but because this time, he wanted to do it right. He and Rachel returned to therapy. Not because they were broken, but because they were rebuilding something stronger. Something scarred, yes, but true. And over time, the pain softened. Rachel didn't smile as easily, but she smiled. Zoe stopped asking if Daddy was leaving again. Ethan started saying goodnight again. And for Alex, mornings no longer began with dread. They began with intention. One night, months later, Rachel and Alex stood in the nursery they'd painted together years ago. Rachel leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. You're not the same man who went to that island, she said. I hope not. She looked at him. I think I love this version more. Alex walked over, took her hand. This version is learning how to love you the way you always deserved. And in that quiet room, among fading stars and stuffed animals, they kissed. Not to forget the past, but to forgive it. Chapter 15, Full Circle. 1 year later. The seasons had changed. Twice. The pain had dulled, but the scar remained, a quiet reminder of what had been lost, and what had been fought for. The house was warmer now. Not just in temperature, in presence. Laughter had returned. So had music, and Sunday pancakes, and spontaneous dancing in the kitchen when Zoe played Taylor Swift too loud. Rachel and Alex had renewed their vows. Not with a big ceremony, but in the backyard, under string lights, just them and the kids. Rachel wore a navy dress. Alex wore honesty in his eyes. He hadn't become a perfect man. But he had become a better one. And sometimes, that's the most love can ask. Camille gave birth in May. A boy. Dark curls. Green eyes. His name was Julian. Alex visited the hospital. Alone. He held the baby once, just briefly. The weight of him in his arms felt surreal, a future born from mistake, yet untouched by blame. Camille looked tired but strong. He looks like you, she said. Alex smiled faintly. Poor kid. Camille laughed. They sat in silence for a while. I want to be in his life, Alex said. I know, she replied. And I'll never let him be confused. I'll tell him everything, age-appropriate, honest, when the time is right. She nodded. Good. He stood to leave. Camille, he added, pausing by the door. Thank you. For what? For letting me stay in the life I was meant to live, and still giving me the chance to do right by the life I helped create. Rachel met Julian 2 months later. Camille brought him to a park where the kids were playing. Rachel held the child in her arms, stared into eyes that reminded her of everything she had once feared. And then, slowly, she smiled. This isn't his fault, she whispered. Camille nodded. They didn't talk long. They didn't need to. But when Rachel handed Julian back, she said, "Make sure he knows he was wanted. Not by mistake, but by choice." Camille promised she would. Years later, Julian would know he had siblings who lived in another house. He would know his father didn't live with his mother. But he would also know, without question, that he was loved. And Alex, once a man hiding from the life he'd built, now stood firmly inside it. Not perfect, but present. And sometimes, that's enough. The end.